civilization. We see this in Central America with Mayan structures. We see this in South America. We even see this in Egypt and in India, in the Middle East, also in China and Southeast Asia, constantly pushing back these ages. I think that there is evidence that man has lived with dinosaurs. And in the same vein that dinosaurs have lived with man. That man and dinosaurs have cohabited on this planet, even in the recent future, there is a considerable amount of evidence for. First of all, as evidence for dinosaurs and man living together, we have the tremendous amount of written material and verbal legends. The story of dragons, for instance, is an interesting one, and one that clearly seems to relate to dinosaurs. Giant sea monsters, lake monsters, which could be a type of dinosaur, even the story of flying dragons, as in Chinese, Mayan mythology, also the mythology of the Middle East, of griffins, and other sort of flying lizard monsters. These clearly relate to dinosaurs, and we know for a fact that at least at one point in the past, such animals did exist. Now, it might be worth asking ourselves, well, are the legends of dinosaurs and flying dragons and monsters like that, is it possible that they had just seen fossils and therefore concocted legends to go with what were the fossilized remains of these animals? Or, as the legend seems to say, did man actually live at the same time as dinosaurs and interact with them? Typically in a scene of slaying a dragon or a monster. It is possible that dinosaurs, many varieties of dinosaurs that are thought extinct, are still alive today. There is a branch of zoology which is known as cryptozoology. Crypto meaning hidden, zoology, animals, the study of hidden animals. This is a legitimate area of zoology and intrigues many zoologists, including myself. Cryptozoologists then search the world for these hidden animals. It can be as varied as large animals believed to exist in the Loch Ness Lake of Scotland and the Loch Ness Monster. I think that dinosaurs do still exist today. And the idea of extinct animals not being extinct, but have carried down remote areas of the world today is not only a credible theory, but one that is gaining in popularity. Dinosaurs could easily be alive in many areas of the world. For instance, in 1977, a Japanese fishing boat off New Zealand brought up out of the water the carcass of what appeared to be a plesiosaur, an animal that should have been extinct for millions of years. And yet, they had it on board the ship, it was photographed, scientists on board the ship monitored and studied it, and then, unfortunately, they threw it back into the water because they were afraid that it would contaminate the catch of tuna that they had. Well, why don't people see dinosaurs today, you might ask? That's a good question. The answer to that is they do. Dinosaurs are reported around the world all the time. And certain animals like the coelacanth, which was also said to be extinct hundreds of millions of years ago. We've now at least 5 or 6 species have been captured off the Straits of Madagascar. Other species as the tuatara and giant crocodiles and other huge lizards and tortoises, all are from this same era of time, and they've come down to us today. So therefore, the idea of seeing dinosaurs in different places in the world, well, people are. Now, a lot of the people who see these things aren't carrying a Nikon camera with them everywhere they go. And clearly, dinosaurs are not living in, the farms and fields of mid-America, say. They're living in remote areas of the world, typically jungle swamps that are nearly impenetrable. A good example of this would be the Lake Tele region of the Congo, where a brontosaurus animal, known to the natives as the Makili Mbembe, is said to live in this swampy lake area. And a number of zoologists have gone to this remote area. There are photos taken of the Makili Mbembe on the lake. And the natives, too, have very rich traditions of what this animal is. Walt Disney, in fact, even did a fictionalized movie based on these expeditions called Baby. which was all about the capturing of a live brontosaurus in the swamps and jungles of Central Africa. There are reports from all over the world of pterodactyls, of some kind of giant flying lizards flying. A particularly intriguing series of reports on pterodactyls comes from the southwest African nation of Namibia. In Namibia, there have been various reports of pterodactyls flying in the remote desert regions there, including a story of a pterodactyl attacking a young shepherd boy who was tending the flock in an area near the Kalahari Desert. This reported sighting of a pterodactyl was also investigated by the famous South African zoologist Courtney Latimer, who is famous in the coelacanth case of first identifying the coelacanth. She herself believed that indeed pterodactyls were alive in this remote corner of Africa. If you go into the remote deserts of Namibia, you will encounter people who claim sightings of pterodactyls and have seen them. And in fact, in certain areas of Namibia, there is a terrific fear at dusk of the natives of these giant flying lizards which eat sheep and attack people. There are many fascinating reports from around the world of living pterodactyls. One of the reports, and a series of them, comes from some credible sources, which I trust, that pterodactyls have been sighted in certain areas of the Namib Desert of Namibia in southwest Africa. These people cite native legends and actual witness reports and film footage even of pterodactyls flying in a remote rocky desert area where there are these outcrops of cliffs and rocks where pterodactyls can live. This is an extremely remote area of a remote country, a place where really no one lives, and a few natives in rare little spots, and you have a few German sheep farmers on vast desert tracts. And they themselves tell stories of pterodactyls and know where they live. We find this in many areas of Africa, particularly remote mountain and desert areas where there are cliffs, areas where pterodactyls could live and survive. And though it sounds incredible, the evidence for this is growing and growing, and until soon it will be either proven one way or another. In the 1930s, also in Africa, in the swamps of northern Zambia, a British game warden wrote a book called In Which Bound Africa. And one of the chapters in this book is about an animal, a flying pterodactyl-type lizard called the Kongamato. And the Kongamato was a pterodactyl that lived in these swamps, the Oundi swamps of northern Zambia. And curiously, anyway, this is a chapter in his book from 1934. There are many stories of pterodactyls also in North America and in South America, as well as in Indonesia and other areas like that. In the early 1970s, there was a pterodactyl flap, if you will, that took place around Brownsville, Texas, where a number of people, and we had here multiple sightings, including school teachers and policemen, of what they described as giant flying lizards, pterodactyls, flying in the daytime even, which is unusual for pterodactyls because they tend to be apparently a nocturnal type of animal. And these pterodactyls flying along the Rio Grande. Apparently, if these are authentic sightings, these pterodactyls are coming from the Sierra Madre and Sierra Oriental mountain ranges of northern Mexico. There's a famous story of a photograph in Arizona of a pterodactyl shot in the late 1800s that was nailed to the side of a barn. A number of cryptozoologists have claimed they have seen this photo, including Ivan T. Sanderson and the columnist John Keel for Fate magazine. However, we cannot locate this photo now, and we can't really be sure that it really ever existed. There's another curious story that actually takes place in Illinois, near to St. Louis, of a cliff over the river Mississippi, which the Indians, the Illini Indians in that area, according to legend, said a giant bird, like a pterodactyl, lived in this cliff. And this giant flying lizard actually was eating people. So one day, according